Tata Punch or Citroen C3? Which of these city slickers should you pick? Find out in a comparison video. But before we go ahead, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Evo India channel and smash that bell icon to stay tuned to all our video drops. These micro SUVs, so to speak, are very popular among city slickers because they provide funky styling on a compact footprint and the desirability of an SUV at a very attractive pricing point. It's time to find out how the two stack up against each other in the battle of the micro SUVs. Let's start by talking about the styling of the Citroen C3. This looks like a shrunken down version of the C5 Aircross, and that is no bad thing because the C3, it does look very funky in its design. Our test car also gets the optional orange accents to contrast with the multiple dual tone color schemes that are available with the Aircross. Up front, you get a double chevron logo, the Citroen logo up front, and the wheels, they are 15-inch wheels, but they are steel wheels. Alloy wheels are available as an option among the 70 accessories that you get on the C3. The door handles, they are flip type door handles, not the pull type that we are used to. And over at the rear, the Citroen C3, it does not get a rear wash wipe function, which is a strange omission. The Citroen C3 also gets 180 mm of ground clearance, giving it a nice stance. And overall, the design is very fresh, it is very funky, and there's no doubt that it will be liked by a lot of people. Now that we are behind the wheel of the Citroen C3, it's a good time to talk about the cabin. The driving position is very nice. You get height adjust for the driver's seat, so you can set it as high or low as you'd like. The seats themselves are very comfortable, and the steering also adjusts for rake, though reach would also have been a welcome addition. In terms of the cabin layout, you get these nice orange accents to liven up the cabin. These are optional accessories, but they do liven up the cabin a fair bit. You get these funky looking air vents, and the aircon itself is a very strong unit. You also get a 10-inch touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and 4 speakers, though honestly they don't really sound that good. You get fabric seats on the Citroen C3, and they actually work better in our conditions with Indian heat. Coming to the rear seat, the Citroen C3, it offers adequate amounts of headroom as well as knee room. However, the seat back angle is a bit too upright and the under thigh support isn't the best. Only thing I'm probably missing is an armrest that would have made driving the C3 even more effortless, but this is a really nice car to spend your time commuting in around the city, trapped in a traffic jam. That's about the end of the good news, because the Citroen C3 is not as generously spec'd as the Punch, for instance. You don't even get a auto dimming rear view mirror. Hell, you don't even get a day and night rear view mirror in the C3. The adjustment for the ORVMs is manual, and because the C3 is a fair bit wide, you really have to stretch over to the passenger side to adjust that mirror. One thing that gets my blood boiling, however, is that 3.5-inch digital instrument cluster. I mean, come on. You don't even get a tachometer, and the Citroen C3 only comes with a manual, no automatic, strangely. So you really have to shift by ear, and that is something very weird. When was the last time you drove a car without a tachometer? Let us know in the comments below. Now that we are behind the wheel, it's a good time to talk about the Citroen C3's engines. You get a 1.2 litre naturally aspirated petrol that we are driving, and you also get a 1.2 litre turbocharged petrol engine. Both engines are 3-cylinder units, and as for this NATASP, there is a bit of inherent vibration when you first start off the engine. There are a fair bit of vibes that are creeping in from the pedals, from the gear shift, but once you get going and the engine is warmed up, it is actually a pretty nice engine. The NATASP that we are driving is mated to a 5-speed manual transmission with a very odd shaped shifter. But honestly, this is actually a good powertrain to be driving around the city in. The engine, it feels stocky. I'm in 4th gear, cruising at around 60 kilometers an hour. And even when I give it the beans, it actually responds quite nicely. The C3 is also very light. The curb weight is just under a ton. And that also means that acceleration is brisk. It feels quick on the move. You can keep up with traffic very easily. Obviously, there's none of the shove that you might associate with a turbo petrol. But yeah, it feels so nice to drive at 8 tenths. If you are planning to do a lot of commuting with your micro SUV, which I suspect you will, there's no beating the C3's Natas powertrain. The ride, it feels very plush. It's very easy to drive this around town. It does not like to be hustled clearly. If you accelerate into the corner and you are pushing it hard like I am doing right now, it's not going to be happy there. It gets anti-roll bars, but there is a fair bit of body roll to this tall boy. Handling then, not a strong point. But the upside is great comfort, and a lot of buyers appreciate that. The steering is very light. It is not brimming with feel in any way. It is not an enthusiastic handler by any means. But the ease of driving of the Citroen will definitely appeal to a lot of buyers. Now coming to the design of the Punch, it is clearly inspired by the larger SUVs in Tata's model lineup, and it looks very SUV-like in that respect. You get LED DRL sitting up top, and the main beam for the headlamp, it sits lower down. You get generous amounts of black cladding to give it a butch look. The top spec variants, it gets 16-inch alloy wheels, and the Punch gets 187 mm of ground clearance. The rear door handles are neatly integrated into the design, and overall the Punch is a very funky looking thing because you get a lot of cosmetic additions and very cool colors on the design as well. Just check out this one. What do you think of the design of the Tata Punch? Let us know in the comments below. Step inside the Tata Punch and you're greeted by a much nicer cabin than the C3s. It is a lot more conventional in terms of its design, but the materials used and the quality, the fit and finish is much nicer on the Tata. You get a nice infotainment screen mated to a Harman sound system, and that is a very good feature to have. It also gets 4 speakers and 2 tweeters, which means audiophiles will be very happy to crank up their tunes. In terms of safety, the Tata Punch is also way ahead of the Citroen C3, and it scores 5 stars on the G and CAP crash test rating. In terms of the seating position, you feel like you're seated in a car rather than on top of an SUV, and the seats of the Punch, they are a lot more comfortable than the C3s as well. Coming to the rear seat, knee room does take a bit of a hit. That said, headroom is on par with the Citroen as well, thanks to a relaxed seat back angle. The floor of the Punch is also nearly flat, which liberates a lot more room for the passenger sitting in the middle. In terms of the engine, you get a 1.2 litre naturally aspirated petrol engine. That is the only engine that is offered with the Tata Punch, but you can have it with a choice of 2 transmissions, either this 5-speed manual that you see here or a 5-speed AMT, something which the Citroen does not get. In terms of the power, this engine produces 84 bhp and 113 Nm of torque, and it is a very smooth and refined engine despite being a 3-cylinder. Drive it at a relaxed pace at 8 tenths, just cruise around town, and this engine is barely audible inside the cabin. If you are an enthusiast, you will be delighted to know that the Punch, it is also a nicer handling SUV as compared to the Citroen C3. It does not roll as much. It feels a lot more planted, a lot more confident in terms of its manners, and if you like driving, look no further. This is the pick of the two. The wheel is nicer to hold as well. The instruments, you get a part analog and part digital cluster, and this still is a lot better than the Citroen C3's digital instrument cluster. This has been done very nicely. The ride quality of the Punch is also a lot more sophisticated as compared to the Citroens. It rides with a bit more composure. It does not feel like it's being bounced around, or it does not feel as flighty when you chuck it around a set of bends. It feels like a lot more expensive car, and that is a good thing in this segment. Is there anything that I dislike about the Tata Punch? Sure, it doesn't feel as sprightly off the line when you launch it hard as the Citroen, and neither does it feel as special, because after all, this cabin is a lot more conventional compared to the Citroen's funky looks. It is also a lot more desirable and gets a lot more features. Not to mention that the Punch, you can have it in multiple avatars thanks to Tata's variety of cosmetic additions that make each Punch stand out on its own. Now let's talk about the Citroen C3 first. This is Citroen's first stab at making a mass market offering for India, and it has impressed us heavily with its looks, its comfort and its effortlessness to drive around the city. The C3, it also undercuts the Tata Punch by almost 11,000 rupees on the base manual variants. That said, the Tata Punch, it is better spec'd. It gets a lot more variants. It also gets the option of an automatic transmission, something that the C3 does not get. It is better to drive, it is almost as comfortable as the C3, and it is crucially a very safe car as well. So, if you're looking for a micro SUV, the Tata Punch is a no-brainer. That said, the Citroen C3 comes quite close.